Welcome to my comfort zone, or I guess welcome to Keeping Busy. I'm Zach, and I am joined with Brandon, and tonight I'm showing off Dicefolk. This is a game I got because Steam was having a sale on creature collecting games, and I am proud of myself for only buying one game instead of like 30. Those Steam sales are scary. You never know just how much it's going to take out of your wallet.
Yeah, I know. I did look at some of the games on that sale. Not necessarily my genre. I haven't played much Pokemon or Digimon or Yokai Watch or whatever in these franchises. But I know a lot of people talk up like cassette beasts in terms of like indie monster collecting games. But I'd never heard of Dicefolk before.
Yeah, Dicefolk's a bit more niche. It's, we'll be showing it soon, of course. But it's a Pokemon mixed with dice, and it's a roguelike. I don't know. I almost do feel hypocritical at times, because I am one of those people that's like, man, there's so many indie horror games, and then every time a new indie roguelike based around cards or dice comes out, I'm like, clapping and going, hee hee hee.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very similar thing because every single time there's a new mascot horror game that comes out, people immediately see the design of the creature and they get excited and they see the jump scares in the demo and they go, I can't wait for the full release. And it's a never-ending cycle that many kids at this point have grown up with, so they just sort of expect it at this point that there will always be a new one.
Yeah, for me, as someone who doesn't really like horror that much, especially mascot horror, a lot of mascot horrors look the same, but anytime I say that around mascot horror fans, they get really mad.
Oh, wow.
Which I could kind of get. Kind of get. It's one of those things where I realize I'm ignorant because I don't really know or care about the genre that much. But from an outsider's perspective, it looks pretty similar.
I mean, we did a video on Indigo Park's first chapter, and that game in some ways was what we expected, but it also at the same time was a lot better than we anticipated, and it kind of goes to show that, no, obviously not all of these are the same. It's just that, yeah, especially when I've looked into like video essays or videos sort of summing up different mascot horror franchises, I'm just like, I mean, that's cool, I guess, but I will never have any interest in playing something like that. When I think of horror games I enjoy, I think of like survival horror or just things that, I don't know, are not advertised around eventually selling a plushie of the monster.
Yeah, I will say I felt like Indigo Park was one of the better ones. I still don't like its gameplay. I'm not a fan of just running away from things. But its presentation, especially its writing, I thought the writing was really good. That's what kept me entertained throughout that game.
Yeah, I'll probably try Chapter 2 when it comes out. Just to see where that story is going.
I'm not sure if I'm actually going to play it myself, but I'll at least look up a YouTube video on it. Like, if I picked one mascot horror to care about, it would be Indigo Park. Although I am terrified that they are going to find a way to ruin it for me somehow.
But other ones, when I look into their history, I'm very confused. Like, whenever I've seen multiple video essays delving into the development history of, like, Hello Neighbors franchise, I'm incredibly curious why this is still a thing and why people cared about it in the first place, because the concept was interesting, but every execution of that concept was pretty disappointing for everybody involved. Yet, it's a huge thing. You can get those games on pretty much any console and all that, and I don't know, I think in the same ways that you and I would play, you know, like, crappy licensed games on Game Boy and PS2, I guess for some kids, like, the the presentation, like the look of the thing is enough to draw them in.
You know, I never really considered it that way, but that is... I feel like that's a good point. Because, yeah, I played a lot of really dumb, really horrible licensed games. Oh, I should probably go into gameplay mechanics. So, we have our Dicefolk, or... There is a specific name for that. Oh, Chimeras. We have our Chimeras here. There's the enemy Chimeras. There is no AI in this game. These dice determine what these enemies are going to do, and then they determine what I can do. So, for example, if I click on this one, they'll rotate randomly, although there's only 2 of them, so I know what it'll rotate into. I want to click this one first, because this could do anything, and if I want something to attack, I want it to be that one. Okay.
So it's a roguelike that has a lot of RNG based around what happens?
Basically, but you could control... Like, I can't control the dice, but I can control the order of the dice. So, like, I could rotate... And I could choose who's going to get hit here, because the one in front is known as the leader. And usually if there is an attack, the leader will be the one taking damage. But, like, where the strategy really comes in is figuring out the right order with what the dice give you. And then later on, I'll be able to buy faces for my dice to make them better based on my team.
Okay, yeah, so pretty, at its basis, a pretty, traditional kind of roguelike formula. Is there an end goal? Is there really much of a story to this one? That you're trying to accomplish something?
There is something I already accomplished, which is why I really wanted to do Dicefolk. You get different talismans, and the goal is to take the talisman to this door called Salem's Door. I don't remember the full story off the top of my head, but it's basically about how the Chimeras were destroying the land. They were ruled by this evil Chimera. And then our character... I don't know if other characters know how to do it, but at the very least, no, our character is one of the few that can actually control Chimeras. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure they're just like monsters.
Right, okay.
And then we use the talismans determine what kinds of chimeras you can get. So if you use a strength talisman, you can get more... if you get the warrior talisman, you get more attack focused. If you get the storm talisman, I think it's called, you get more rotation focused. And then because I've gotten all 4 talismans to the door and beat the story boss, I got the chaos talisman, which lets me just use like pretty much any random chimera, I believe.
Okay. Because I noticed when you're at, like, the main menu, you can select between, like, different characters to play as, or at least different loadouts of chimeras.
Oh yeah, the different loadouts of chimeras. And then because I finished at least one normal run of the game, now I could choose some, like, trial mode or special mode, but I haven't tested those yet, so I just played regular mode. Here's our shop where we can get equipment that we can equip to our little guys here. You start off with these dolls. I usually don't do much with the dolls. Like, if I get any upgrades, I usually just give them to the first one I get. You usually only get 1 chimera per area. And these are equipment. If you've played Creature Battler before, I guess just any RPG, these are equipment. They give us special abilities.
And of course, this early in a run, everything is too expensive.
A little. I can afford all of these right now. I'm just debating if I want them. These are cursed equipment, meaning once I equip them, they cannot be unequipped.
Okay.
I'm just gonna take the full revive for now. most things on the map, if you go to them, they're like a one-time thing. But things like shops, the Scroll Master, the Dice Smith, and the markets, you could revisit them over and over. But like this bush, if I go to the bush, I have to do what it says, and then I can't use the bush anymore, which is kind of annoying. But let's see what the Dice Smith has, because this is where we go to upgrade her. Ooh, I like this. I have literally just enough too. I don't have anything that activates yet. Ranged attack is pretty good, but I want to hit really, really hard.
Oh, I see what I was confusing. What is actually the symbol for gold next to all the numbers I perceived as a 0. So I kept thinking everything was like 130 gold or something. No, like of course you can afford all this.
I'm actually going to remove these idols. But yeah, this is pretty standard roguelike stuff. You walk around a map, you defeat enemies, earn gold. No, there's no experience or evolving in this one. You just improve your team, give them new equipment. The equipment gives them abilities on top of the abilities they already start with. And I really like this game.
But none of that would carry over to another playthrough. It's only really like what you get from the shops, or
no, there's no carryover between anything.
Oh, okay. It's just more like you're more like unlocking another campaign, or just playing it as is.
Yeah, this isn't like Hades or the TMNT one you showed off last time, where you get a currency that you then spend for permanent upgrades. The closest you get to upgrades is new loadouts of chimeras.
Okay.
Let's see what's over here. That's interesting. I don't know if I'm going to use it. I guess I'll put this on because I'm probably going to get it and activate at some point. Is it just me, or does this music sound like Kingdom Hearts? Well, not at this part, but there is a part of the song that makes me think of a Kingdom Hearts theme.
I mean, just in general, the composition has a little bit of that bounciness that I usually expect out of Yoko Shimura's work. There's always a feeling in her songs of it going up and down, and there's always a lot of energy.
Oh, I think I have something I could ask you about, because I don't even think I've asked you about this question even in real life. What are your own personal opinions on RNG in games? Because it seems to be a very contentious thing. A lot of people, I definitely have some friends that really hate it.
I mean, I feel like especially a number of years back, it was a more like mainstream kind of contested thing where a lot of people just on principle hated RNG as a mechanic. But I think a lot of that may have come down to, like a lot of live service games and the way you get rewards, and not necessarily about just RNG in general in games. Yeah, to me, it really does depend on what the mechanic is and what the game's about. Because sometimes, depending on how... Because a lot of it is not just about making things 100% random. I think it's about tweaking things to be, to have results that are satisfying or require to take damage or build up from that in a more consistent pace instead of just complete total randomness. Like for example, recently I've been playing the Falcom game Tokyo Xanadu, and in that there's an arcade you can visit that has a bunch of different arcade games, and one of them is like a fishing mini game where you fish for fish that will you can then earn tokens that you can then spend at the arcade to buy accessories for your party. And in that, it's more a case of each of the different types of fish have percentages for how often you'll catch them, and depending on what fish you catch, the rate at which you will catch that fish's percentage will go down, but all the other fish, their percentages of how often you can catch them go up. And it's a lot of you just kind of continuing to catch to eventually get bigger and bigger fish to win more and more tokens. And to me, that system, while it does sometimes take a while, depending on how lucky you are, it does end up feeling pretty good because you are always building to something. Whereas in other games where it's always completely random, yeah, I mean, it can depend. But for example, if you get to an end of a level and there's like a little bonus you can get where even like in old platformers, where you'll get like the opportunity to get an extra life, but sometimes it can be kind of decided randomly. That's usually okay with me. I think that works fine because it's not like it's nice to get an extra life and sometimes you really need it, but it's not always a case where you're not losing something integral or necessary for a playthrough. It's just a nice little boon. And that's when RNG is totally fine with me. But if it's like, oh, you missed out on this important thing because you didn't get it this time around, I actually hate that kind of stuff. Well, like the whole thing with roguelikes where you just happen to get the RNG that gives you just a really bad loadout for a run, and then you're kind of screwed. And then the one time you get like a super lucky pickup, and then you're just able to beat the thing with no problems whatsoever. And it's like one of those things where I feel a little mixed about, because on one hand, there is that satisfaction of, ooh, I got this good loadout this time. But then it also means you might have many occasions where everything is always stacked against you to the point where you just keep losing at an earlier point over and over again. Because that's the thing with roguelikes in general, right? Is that it's always that balance of how hard you make it, how satisfying getting those permanent upgrades are, and the slow progression to getting farther and farther until you do finish it. Because sometimes with some games, it just feels so stacked against you that it would take eons to finally reach any sort of ending, and that can feel obnoxious. Because I understand, like, especially with indie games, why roguelikes are so popular is that it allows you to design less content, but still have a format that players are expected to go through over and over again to get more time out of a game. But yes, depending on where you set the difficulty, it can sometimes be insane. I've been continuing to attempt to play the game Death Road to Canada on occasion because I really like the feel and the look and the music and the idea of that game. But sometimes it is ridiculously, like a lot of the runs you get are insane. Because there's so many different elements that could just randomly pop up and kill you.
Yeah, for me, I don't know if I want to say I'm like, big fan is a stretch, but I am quite a fan of it, especially, I think Dicefolk does it the way I really love it, because the dice are random, but the order of which I activate the dice is all my own. And so there is strategy in knowing, like, oh, how do I, like, best utilize all the dice? And I can't say it makes the game too easy, because I think I have lost Run, but I think I've finished all the others, but I feel like I always get some kind of good and fun build in this game. And in some way, I mean, I have only been doing the normal runs, I haven't done any of the harder ones yet, but I feel like, at the very least, what I've been mostly playing, I feel like the game is... I wouldn't say too easy, but it's definitely on the easier side of a roguelike. Which I don't mind, because
Sure.
the compositions I've been getting, the team building, and all the items and synergies, oh my gosh, it gets ridiculous and fun. Like, I had a shiny version, which is like a shiny version is basically what if you took this, but they made its ability and stats better. And I had one
Right.
that was like... I had one that was, oh, I forget how it worked. I can't remember if it was an item or if it was ability. But basically, anytime an enemy spawned, which enemies spawn when the battle starts, he would get a free attack every time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, yeah, there's some ridiculous things you can do in this game, and I'm hoping to get to show it off here, as long as trying to commentate and play at the same time doesn't, you know, completely screw me over. Yeah, I'm fine with being rotated.
So does the RNG determine whether or not you hit, or is it more just like you always hit, but you do less or more damage?
Oh no, the dice determine what actions you could take. There is no missing. Well, unless a status
Okay,
effect,
that's
like
good.
if you have blind, for example, you're guaranteed to miss, but that's a status ailment, so that's fine. That's something you have to play around. But for example, this ranged attack, these guys have a specific number they'll pretty much always do. So like if this guy attacks, he'll deal 6. This guy will deal 6. Although this guy has burn, meaning when he gets attacked, he takes extra damage. So if I attack him, he'll take 11. If I use this range, if I use this range attack, it means my Chimera over here can attack any of these. When I use a regular attack, I just straight up hit the one in front with this. The dice don't determine how much damage you do, or if you miss, they just determine what actions you can take. And they also determine what actions the enemies can take. Actually, before I forget to use this, I'm going to use it now. Because I never remember to use these chips. For some reason, in any game that allows you to have chips or, like, potions, I just never remember to use them. And then I'll die with them, and I'll be like, oh, I could have saved myself by using one of these healing things. Shit. Yeah, so, you get to basically control what the enemies do. Like, that ranged attack, I do have to take the ranged attack. You always have to use all the enemy dice, but I do not have to use all my own dice. Like, if I didn't want to rotate, I could ignore this, but I have to use all the enemy dice before I can end the turn.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way of handling it, because AI is a pain in the ass to program. Although, I think some, like, Slay the Spire, I think the enemies just have set things they'll do.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot that would rotate me on attack. But I really do like this. Because this is something... I haven't thought about this system specifically, but I have always wondered what it would be like if you designed a game where the player sort of had control over the enemy actions. Although, of course, that's pretty hard to balance, because the player would always just do everything in the most optimal order. But here I would say, like, it does kind of make the game easy, because, like I said, I could do this in any order I want. But at the same time, later on, enemies get more and more abilities that make you go, oh no, if I do anything, they'll get mad and hit me.
Yep, but I think it's cool that it's the idea of that risk and reward of trying to find ways to offset your enemies, but because of the RNG, you don't quite know how it's going to go out. You just have to plan for the best.
Yeah, like, I think RNG is good for keeping things from getting stale. And I also... a lot of people don't like this, but I really like the idea of... Damn it. I really like the idea of planning around what the game is giving me. To a certain extent, sometimes it just, like, you know, we've all had a run in a roguelike where we just get the worst items that do nothing together, and you just go, oh, come on, game.
Yeah, it almost feels like a necessary, just, you know, weakness of the genre by design that occasionally you are just going to get the bad run.
But for me personally, I find it doesn't happen too often. But it definitely can happen. And it probably depends on the roguelike and stuff. I would assume some is probably more likely to happen than others. Oh, I'm so close to killing him.
But he's so close to killing you as well.
Yeah. Okay. One important thing to note, there is no permadeath, so he's not permanently dead.
Well, that's good.
Which I do like that. I would assume there is probably a Nuzlocke equivalent mode in this. Maybe that's one of the alternate modes I haven't tried yet.
Oh, that would be cool. Because then you'd really have to be careful.
Oh, this looks funny. So activation is normally that's the thing you have to roll a die for. Because I have a, where is it? Oh yeah, you see the power symbol on one of my die faces there. That means that means I target one of my allies and I activate its items. So this is an activated item where every time I activate it, it inflicts +3 poison on a random opponent. But if I rotate 5 times, this activates all items. That sounds funny.
Oh, at the same time. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm picking it. This is what I love about this game. This game has some of the most fun items I think I've played with. What all roguelikes have you played? Because we've talked about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one, Death Road to Canada. I'm sure there's others.
Well, I mean, I put a lot of hours into Hades, which, you know, the TMNT game is just a clone of. I mean, I've played games that have those type of elements but aren't necessarily roguelikes. Like, we covered a horror game last year called The Chant, and once you beat The Chant, they released free DLC for it called, I think it's like Below or Beyond the Gloom. And in that DLC, it's a canon sequel to the game, and it does have like story stuff and an ending. But the gimmick with that is that you're going through an environment where there's multiple different ways to go through it, and you do get permanent upgrades, and you're kind of pushed back if you die. But it's kind of one of those things where, you know, the environments never really change all that much. You do open up like exits and pathways and like shortcuts as you progress. But ultimately, you just need to get through the couple different areas, unlock each of the things you need, and then you beat it and leave. It didn't take me super long to finish it, but and you know, to some level the roguelike elements felt a little tangential because of it not really being a full truly random situation. But because they were able just to go hog wild on the gameplay and not have to worry as much about the story stuff until the end of the DLC, it produced some of the best gameplay in the entire game, because all they had to do was just focus on crafting unique levels without worrying about scripting. But besides that, like, have I really played that many other roguelikes? I know that you've probably played way more than me, like Streets of Rogue or Roguelands or a lot of the other big ones.
Oh man, I need to play Streets of Rogue again. That one was really fun. Oh, I played. Oh, what's the one I'm thinking of? It's the one where every time you die, you play as a descendant. Rogue Legacy. Rogue Legacy, I think the name is.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That one's a very, very good roguelike as well. Actually, that's one I should do for keep.
Yeah, you probably should do that one. I realize now I technically have also played and beaten Zombie U, which is a game where whenever you die, you play as a new character and you have to pick up your equipment from the past character that's been turned into a zombie. But that is, a linear game otherwise.
I could say that's a roguelike philosophy at the very least.
Right. Oh, I played Risk of Rain 2 recently.
Oh, that is one I would not have expected you to play. But yeah, Risk of Rain 2 is good, especially multiplayer.
I've only done solo, and I'd like to try multiplayer. I've done about 2 or 3 runs, and it was one of those cases where the first run was terrible. The second run was like a little better, and then the third run I just like got massively over past any other run I've ever done previously, and got to like deep into the game and fought like a bunch of strange bosses, and eventually, finally, I was taken out. But when I was able to actually get a good run on it, that's an excellent game. Has a really good feel to it. Like when I saw Risk of Rain 2, and because I didn't know anything about the Risk of Rain series, I expected it to be more of like a chill kind of atmospheric exploration game with like, procedurally generated environments. You're picking up items and all that. And it's like, no, it is just a straight up like arcade action game where you're just trying to keep ranking up, dead enemies and defeating swarms and to eventually get a portal to the next area. Oh, and I have played another Hades-like game called Dream Scraper, which was made, I believe, by a development team of 2 guys that came out on Steam, and it also came out on Switch. I first tried playing it on GOG, and during one of my second runs, it crashed during the run, and I lost that run.
Oh.
And I kind of distanced myself from it for a second. Then I saw it was on sale on Switch, and I thought, well, if I'm getting it on console, that means that it's more than likely not going to have issues with crashing. So I got the Switch version, and I've gotten deeply far into the Nintendo Switch version. Now, Dream Scraper is a game where it is very difficult, and you have to be really focused if you actually want to get to the end of that one, and it takes a while to build things up. But what really has kept me going back to Dream Scraper is the art style, the presentation, the story itself, and the way it builds as you keep doing runs. And just kind of the overall feel of it. It is basically you play as a woman that's moved into a new town, like finally moved out of her folks' house after getting out of college, and is moving into a new town where she doesn't really know anyone. And it's about her basically during the day. You go to work, and then you like explore the town. You can like just introduce yourself and like try to meet people and form connections. And during the night, you go to bed, and you basically have nightmares where you're fighting your personal demons, and that's where the actual like runs come in. But during the day, it's a bit like Persona, where you are like making friends with the townspeople, and by creating these relationships, you can then sort of like equip the inspiration you get from one of those townspeople, and that gives you certain boosts when you go into another run, like, increased defense or increased damage from a certain element of attack. And what's really cool and creative about Dream Scraper is that all of your main character's weapons and abilities and like dodges and anything you can think of are all created based on the main character's imagination. So they're all like inspired, since it's her dreams that the runs take place in. They're all based around things that particularly are important to her or that she just finds cool or interesting. So like, you know, one of her weapons is just straight up, you know, Cloud's giant sword from Final Fantasy VII, or like not directly like copyrighted, but clearly that's what it's inspired by. Or, you know, she can just like shoot around, like her dodge is just like a bolt of lightning that allows her to shoot around an area, or a dodge where she just flies fast and leaves a flame trail behind her. And each of the weapons you pick up has like a little comment underneath it from her that kind of talks about her inspiration for imagining this idea in her mind. So you're like, you're technically collecting these ideas and then using your inspiration to put them into your dreams. And as you might expect, there's a little bit more to that you're not, when you're fighting your demons and your nightmares, it has to do with your main character's past life before she moved out and some of the trauma that comes from that. So you are like slowly having her get memories of past stuff that, you know, past things she's been through, and all the bosses are based on, you know, different fears and weaknesses of herself. So like the first boss is fear itself, which takes the form of a like shark-like fish swimming underneath a sheet of ice. And the second boss, which is the only boss I've really been able to beat yet, is straight up, I believe it's just loneliness. And it's like a creature that uses its attacks to like actually isolate you. I really like Dreamscraper. I really like what it's going for. It is similar to TMNT, Splintered Fate. It is not as polished as Hades. It clearly was designed by a very small team, but it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it, like painted, almost pastel kind of look. It very much, how would I describe its look? It kind of reminds me of the PS4 game, game creator game Dreams, with the way that its world sort of forms whenever you load another area, or just the overall art style. Like the characters don't have facial features. They kind of just look like these kind of, the kind of dolls you would pose when you're doing references for a drawing. And there's something about that gives it a distinct look and feel and charm. And the music is also very relaxing. So I very much do recommend Dreamscraper. Just, yeah, be careful, because for a reason I've had some issues with the PC versions crashing, but I truly don't know what was really causing that. Because ultimately, if you're going to get the Switch version, of course, it's a Switch version, so it's not going to look as nice and it's going to load a little longer, but I haven't had any issues with it outside of that. And the Switch version also has graphics modes, so you can set the game to run at 30, but have a nicer, crisper look, or you can have it be, well, a kind of muddy looking Switch game, but also run at like 60. So it depends on what you're feeling. Yeah, I have a lot of affection for that game. I need to actually go back and finally try to get somewhere in it. But that's that. Like that's the one I've definitely put a lot of time into. I did buy a roguelike called Going Under, which has you playing as, I believe it's a game where you're playing as like a woman running like a dead-end job where you're descending deeper and deeper into a dungeon. But I haven't gotten a chance to try that yet, but I really want to get to that eventually. Because that's the thing with roguelikes. Like, there's so many of them, and they require a time sink to actually get anything of worth out of them. So it can be hard to jump from roguelike to roguelike, and sometimes I just want to play as a damn linear video game that has a distinct ending. And where I'm always making progress no matter what.
But progress is scary, though.
Oh, duh. I've also played Vampire Survivors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's another good Keeping Busy idea.
Vampire Survivors is dangerous.
It is. It's so good.
when that came out, that took the internet by storm because it was like $5 and it is insanely addictive and continues to get patches and updates to this day with new DLC content.
I'm trying to remember one of the recent DLCs that was pretty cool, but I can't remember what it was, but it got something that caught me off guard.
Back in April, it got a DLC based on the Saga games, the RPGs from Square Enix, which I have no experience with.
Could you imagine if I did Unlimited Saga for PC?
Oh God. I mean, I guess that does technically have RNG elements.
That one exists.
Yeah. Oh, duh. Zach, you and I once did co-op on Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove. That's a roguelike.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a really unique game because there's no combat. You're just kind of like exploring these floating platforms trying to collect pieces of your spaceship while just tons of goofy random shit can happen.
Yeah, that's another good future keeping busy. Roguelikes are so good for this style of video. Which, oh shit, reminds me. How long have I been recording?
We're over 40.
You mind if I just finish this boss and then we just end the video then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright, yeah, I'm gonna do this elite battle, get these stone chests, and then do the boss. So I had completely entered, oh, I'm gonna do a full run, and then I was like, wait a minute.
So this skeleton dragon is our boss.
Oh no, this is an elite, which is sort of like a boss light. This is actually a chimera you can get.
Oh, cool.
It's just like, he's very good, but he comes with the downside of every time he attacks, he deals 5 damage to his own allies. Which is good if you have synergy with it. Like, for example, there's some synergy here, because anytime they get hurt, they give Thorn to him. And Thorn is anytime I deal damage to him, I also take damage.
Right. And they keep butting heads until someone goes down.
Yeah, I've been letting them get too much Thorn.
But you're still definitely at the advantage here, because they are not doing well.
No, I will show no mercy. All shall bow down before my chimeras. I'm just gonna end the turn there. Please heal him! How did I lose a 50-50 3 times in a row? Why do coin flips hate me? It's as if it's happening just so the game can be like, CSAC, RNG is bad. And like, it's annoying, definitely, especially when it just refuses to go your way.
Yeah.
But I don't know. As much as it could frustrate me, I also do kind of like it as long as it's done well. But when it is a kind of RNG that's done well, it's kind of vibes based.
Sure. It's everything, you know, kind of meets a certain person's kind of tolerance level.
Ooh, this is cool.
So your travel bags.
Oh yeah, it gives it another equipment slot.
Ooh, that's very good.
Alright, my team is pretty damaged, but thankfully these stone chests usually give healing items. Yeah, you can visit 3 different shrines, and then each time you visit a shrine, a chimera will break out of a statue. But if you get a chimera before you reveal the other statues, then they turn into stone chests, which usually give healing items. So, like, it gives you an incentive to grab a chimera before checking the other chimeras, but then you don't know what your future options are.
But you're trying to kind of gauge and get what advantages you can before you go into this boss, right?
Yeah. Is there anything I can add to my dice from here? And nothing I really want to do. I can buy this chip. I swear to God, one day I'll say it'll be a short BZ, and then I'll be right. One day it'll happen.
On face value, when I first saw this shopkeeper, I thought it was like a granny at first, but then you look at it and you realize, oh no, it's like Oogie Boogie. But there's like actually a creature inside of him, inside of his casing, instead of a bunch of bugs.
Yes, I went the right way.
I mean, technically speaking, while we were talking about like console release or PC released roguelikes that we enjoy a lot, I mean, ultimately, the most popular roguelikes out there are mobile games. Because they're designed to be something you keep coming back to keep having something to you know, occupy your time for like a short, like subway ride to your job. But, you know, the problem with those games are, of course, the obnoxious, constantly pervading ads and the fact that they constantly want you to pay money all the time to make any progress, to actually make a dent in the runs in those games.
I wish I liked mobile games more than I do, but it's so hard to find one that I could just play. Holy shit, this guy is big. Thankfully, I have a shield. Oh no. Okay, good. Yeah, like, I would like a mobile game to just play when I'm just on my phone and waiting for things, but everything just wants to steal my money. Which, like, I wouldn't even be so upset about if the games were actually good.
Yeah, and if they weren't entirely designed purely around greed, because ultimately video games are a business, which is why I understand your desire to normally just play like indie games that are made almost entirely out of passion.
Yeah, I mean, I still, I don't know. I think there was definitely that period where it was like, no, I'm gonna try to avoid AAA games as much as possible, and I'm not... I don't feel as strongly about it now. It kind of goes up and down, I guess.
the Sonic games that have made the most money are like Sonic Dash and Sonic Forces Speed Battle, which are just games to be played infinitely, where there's no way to win. You're just doing a run until you lose all your lives or lose the race.
That reminds me of a story of a kid that spent, what, like thousands of dollars on Sonic Forces lives. Because that's just a thing you can do in mobile games. They just allow you to spend thousands of dollars on mommy's credit card.
Yeah, if you can get a hold of it, and especially if you're playing on your like parents' phone, it's dangerous. Like it's not a very good game, but I would still, want a kid to be playing Sonic Forces over Sonic Forces Speed Battle, because even though Sonic Forces Speed Battle allows you to play as a giant cast of different characters from either the games or the comic books or the movies, the takeaway and the microtransactions and all of that to me are just too much of a pill to swallow over just playing a mediocre linear Sonic game.
Yeah, it's just... We don't have time to get into it because we should end the Keeping Busy soon, but why does a game allow you to spend thousands of dollars on it? Why is that an option?
Because for some companies, that is just how they make a lot of their money. They'll make a game and they'll have what are called the whales to sit in and just use their disposable income to put thousands and thousands of dollars into one game. Sometimes it is just made with them in mind.
Yeah, but already, we should end it here before it goes on too much longer. Thank you, viewer, for joining us to the end of the video. And I hope I made Dicefolk look good, because it's a very good roguelike.
Yep, check it out on Steam right now.
And Brandon, I did it. I didn't suck at a video game. I did it!
Well, I mean, this is closer to your territory, so that helps a lot too.
I like when monster hit other monster really hard in the face.
Then boy, do I have a film franchise for you. Watch some Godzilla, but not like the new ones made by the US that are all computer generated and lack any weight. Watch the old Japanese movies of men in rubber suits who can't see where they're going because of the way that the costumes are built, smashing into each other and tripping over miniatures. That's the life. And I just completely derailed everything when Zach was trying to cap off this video, so please, let us stop. And you watching, have a good night, and yeah, leave a comment if you enjoyed this or if there's stuff that we mentioned that you are interested in.